Please marry me.
I watched my father die on a Tuesday, and by Friday, I'd already forgotten what his laugh sounded like. That's what money does to you. It fills every empty space with noise until you can't hear your own heart anymore. My name is Lily, and 3 months ago, I was the kind of person who'd throw away a dress because it touched the floor. The kind who'd fire a maid for looking me in the eye. The kind who believed love was something you could buy at Tiffany's and return if it didn't match your shoes. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand how far I fell, and how one man, one Christmas, caught me before I hit the ground. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to September, when my world still glittered like broken glass. The penthouse had 72 windows. I counted them once when I was 12 and bored out of my mind. 72 ways to look out at the city and feel absolutely nothing. That's where I was standing when my stepmother, Victoria, told me about the arrangement. His name is Blake, she said, sipping champagne at 11 in the morning. Old family, good bones. Your father would have approved. My father had been dead for 6 weeks. I don't care what Dad would have approved, I said, not turning from the window. I'm not marrying anyone. Victoria laughed. It sounded like ice cracking. Darling, you don't have a choice. The company's bleeding money. Your father's debts are substantial. Blake's family is willing to invest $50 million in exchange for a merger. You are the merger. I spun around. What debts? Dad was a billionaire. Was. She set down her glass. Past tense. Did you really think all those houses, cars, and parties paid for themselves? Your father was very good at looking rich. He was less good at being rich. The floor seemed to tilt. You're lying. Check the accounts yourself, or don't. Either way, you're meeting Blake tomorrow night. Wear something appropriate. She left, and I stood there, 72 windows reflecting my face over and over like a fun house mirror. I didn't recognize any of them. Blake was everything you'd expect from a man whose family made their fortune in shipping and real estate. Tall, handsome, boring as a brick wall. We had dinner at some restaurant where they served foam instead of food, and he talked about his yacht for 45 minutes. So what do? He finally asked, like he'd just remembered I was sitting there. I breathe, I said. I take up space. I look pretty at parties. He laughed, but his eyes were cold. Well, you're good at it. I excused myself to the bathroom and threw up in a marble sink that probably cost more than most people's cars. When I looked in the mirror, I saw my mother staring back. She'd died when I was 8. I barely remembered her, but I remembered this. She never looked happy. Not once. I went back to the table and told Blake I'd think about it. He smiled like he'd already won. That's when I met him. The man who'd ruin everything. I was leaving the restaurant, and it was raining. One of those sudden autumn storms that turns the city into a watercolor painting. My driver was late, probably because I'd screamed at him that morning for playing music too loud, and I was stuck under the awning, watching water pour off the edge like a curtain. Need help? I turned. He was standing there with an umbrella, wearing a jacket that had seen better days, and a smile that looked like it actually meant something. I don't need anything from you, I said automatically. He shrugged. Fair enough, but you're gonna get soaked if you stand there much longer. Where are you headed? Nowhere you can afford. The smile didn't fade. If anything, it got bigger. Probably true. But my umbrella works just as good in rich neighborhoods as poor ones. Before I could answer, my driver pulled up. I got in without looking back, but I watched him through the rain-streaked window as we drove away. He was still standing there, umbrella unopened, getting completely drenched. Laughing. I couldn't stop thinking about him, which was ridiculous because I didn't even know his name. But that laugh. It sounded like something I'd lost a long time ago and couldn't remember where I'd put it. The next day, I did something I'd never done before. I went out without my driver, without security, without telling anyone where I was going. I just walked. The city looked different from the ground. Smaller somehow. More real. People pushed past me without knowing who I was, which felt like breathing after holding your breath underwater. I walked for hours until my feet hurt in my $1,000 shoes, until I found myself in a neighborhood I'd only ever seen from highways, where buildings leaned against each other like tired friends, where laundry hung between windows like flags, where it smelled like coffee and frying onions and life. And there he was, sitting on a stoop, reading a book so worn the cover was held on with tape. "Lost?" he asked without looking up. "Maybe." He finally looked at me, and I saw recognition flicker across his face. But not the usual kind. Not the, "Oh my God, you're Lily Harrison" kind. Something else. Something that made my stomach flip. "You're the girl from last night," he said. "The one who hates help." "I don't hate help. I just don't trust it." Smart. He closed the book. "I'm Jack. Lily. I know. I Googled you after you drove away." Heat rushed to my face. And? "And you're richer than I thought. And sadder. You can't see sad in pictures. You can in yours." Nobody had ever said anything like that to me before. Not in my whole life. I should have walked away. Should have gotten back in my safe glass tower and forgotten about the boy with the taped-up book and the two honest eyes. Instead, I sat down. We talked until the streetlights came on. He told me he worked 3 jobs: construction in the morning, deliveries in the afternoon, stocking shelves at night, that he was saving for college, that his mom had died when he was 10, and his dad worked so much he might as well be dead too, that he read books because they were cheaper than Friends and didn't ask questions. I told him nothing, but somehow, he knew everything anyway. "You don't want to marry that guy," he said finally. "How do you know about that?" "Rich people aren't as quiet as they think. It was all over the news this morning. Merger of the year." I pulled my knees to my chest. "I don't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice. Not when you're drowning in debt. Not when people depend on you. Not when you're scared," he finished quietly. "Yeah, I get that." We sat in silence for a while. Then he stood up and offered me his hand. "Come on. I want to show you something." He took me to a community center 5 blocks away. It was old and smelled like floor wax and teenager, but when we walked in, something shifted in the air. Kids were everywhere, playing basketball, painting at long tables, doing homework in clusters, and they all knew Jack. "Jack!" A little girl ran up and hugged his legs. "You came back. You said you'd teach me to draw hands and you didn't come yesterday." "Sorry, Maya. Had a double shift, but I'm here now, yeah?" She grinned and dragged him toward the art table. He looked back at me. "You coming or just gonna stand there looking lost?" I followed. For the next 2 hours, I watched Jack move through that space like he belonged to it. He helped with homework, fixed a broken table leg, refereed a basketball game, sat with Maya and patiently showed her how to draw fingers over and over until she got it right. And the whole time, these kids looked at him like he was the richest person in the world, because to them, he was. "Why do you do this?" I asked when we finally left. "Because nobody did it for me," he said simply, "and because it's the only place I feel like I'm doing something that matters." "What about college? Your jobs? Your future?" He stopped walking and turned to me. "This is my future. Helping kids who got dealt a bad hand have a shot at a better one. College is just a piece of paper. This is real." I wanted to argue. To tell him he was being naive, that the world didn't work on kindness and good intentions, that money was the only thing that mattered. But standing there, looking at his face in the streetlight, I couldn't find the words. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure I was right. I started seeing Jack every day after that. I'd sneak out, leave my phone behind so Victoria couldn't track me, and just exist in his world for a few hours. We'd walk, talk, sit in parks and watch people. He made me laugh, made me think, made me feel like maybe I wasn't just a pretty thing in a glass box. And slowly, terrifyingly, I started to fall in love with him. But love is complicated when you're me, because every time I was with Jack, I knew I was lying. Not with words. I never told him about the wedding, about Blake, about any of it, but with silence. And silence is just a lie that hasn't been spoken yet. October turned into November. The wedding was set for December 20th. Blake came by the penthouse twice a week to court me, which mostly meant talking at me while I imagined being anywhere else. Victoria watched me like a hawk, suspicious of my sudden good mood but unable to prove anything. And Jack just kept being Jack. Open, honest, real. One night, he took me to the roof of his building. The air was freezing, but he had blankets, and we lay there looking at the few stars you could see through the city lights. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," he said. "I'm scared," I said. "All the time, of everything." "Of what?" "Of being my father, of ending up alone in a big house with nothing but things, of never feeling anything real." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "You're feeling something real right now." "How do you know?" "Because I am too." He kissed me, and the whole city disappeared. I should have told him then, should have explained everything. But I was a coward. So instead, I kissed him back and pretended the world outside that rooftop didn't exist. The universe has a funny way of punishing cowards. 2 weeks before the wedding, Victoria found out. I don't know how. Maybe she had me followed. Maybe she saw it on my face. But she knew. And she was waiting when I got home one night. "Sit," she said. I sat. His name is Jack Porter, 23 years old, makes $16 an hour across 3 jobs, volunteers at a community center, currently $5,000 in debt from a medical bill when his father had a heart attack last year. My blood turned to ice. "How did you—" "I have access to everything, Lily, including his bank account, including his social security number, including his future." "Don't." "Don't what? Don't protect this family? Don't save you from making the stupidest decision of your life?" "I love him." She laughed. Actually laughed. "You love him? You've known him for 2 months. You don't know anything about love. You know infatuation. You know rebellion. But love?" She leaned forward. "Love is what I'm doing right now, keeping you from throwing away everything your father built. Dad built nothing. He borrowed and spent and left us with ashes. And Blake is our way out. Jack is a fantasy. A cute story you'll tell at parties someday, but he's not your future." "What if I refuse?" Her smile was sharp. "Then I'll make sure Jack loses everything. His jobs, his apartment, his father's medical care. I'll bury him so deep he'll forget what sunlight looks like." She stood up. "You have 2 weeks, Lily. Be smart." She walked to the door, then turned back. "And if you try to warn him, if you try to help him, I'll know. And I'll make it worse. The only way to protect him is to stay away. Marry Blake. Move on. Let Jack live his little life in peace." The door clicked shut behind her. I didn't go back to the community center, didn't answer Jack's calls, didn't leave the penthouse. I just sat by those 72 windows and watched the city blur through tears. He called 17 times the first day, 32 the second. Then the call stopped. On December 1st, Jack showed up at my building. Security called up. "There's a Jack Porter here to see you, Miss Harrison. Should we remove him?" I almost said yes, almost let them drag him away and cut him out of my life clean and simple. But I wasn't that person anymore. "Send him up." He looked awful, tired, worried, angry, all of it. "What happened?" he asked the second I opened the door. "Did I do something wrong? Say something wrong? Because one day we're fine, and the next you're just gone, and I don't—" "I'm getting married," I said. The words hung in the air like smoke. "What?" December 20th, to a man named Blake. It's been arranged since my father died. I should have told you. I'm sorry. His face went through about 17 emotions in 3 seconds. You're sorry? That's it? You're just gonna marry some stranger because, what, your family needs money? It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple, he was yelling now. You either love me or you don't. You either want a real life or you don't. Everything else is just excuses. If I don't marry him, Victoria will destroy you. Your jobs, your dad's care, everything. She has that power and she'll use it. Let her. He grabbed my shoulders. I don't care about jobs or money or any of it. I care about you. We can figure it out together. We can... No. I stepped back. We can't. Because I'm not strong like you, Jack. I can't live on love and hope. I need safety. I need security. I need... You need a cage, he said quietly. And you're about to walk into one and lock the door yourself. Get out. Lily, get out. He left, and I sank to the floor and cried until I couldn't breathe. But here's what I didn't tell him. What I couldn't tell him. I was doing this to save him. Because Victoria was right about one thing. She could destroy him. And I wouldn't let that happen. Even if it meant destroying myself instead. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Dress fittings, menu tastings, guest lists. All of it felt like drowning in slow motion. Blake talked at me about honeymoons and houses and investments, and I smiled and nodded and felt my soul leak out through my pores. I didn't sleep, couldn't eat, just went through the motions like a puppet with cut strings. 3 days before the wedding, Victoria came into my room. I'm proud of you, she said. You made the right choice. Did I? Yes, you saved the family. Your father would be proud too. My father is dead, and so am I. She didn't argue, just left me there, standing in a wedding dress that cost more than Jack made in a year, feeling like the loneliest person on earth. That night, I couldn't sleep. I put on a coat and went down to the street, something I hadn't done since Jack. The city was decorated for Christmas now, lights everywhere, people shopping and laughing and being alive. And I was the ghost at the party. I found myself walking, not planning to go anywhere, just moving. But my feet knew where they wanted to be. The community center. It was late, almost midnight, but the lights were on. Through the windows I could see them, Jack and Maya and the other kids, decorating a sad little Christmas tree with homemade ornaments. Jack was lifting Maya up to put a star on top and she was giggling, and the whole scene was so beautiful it hurt to look at. This was what I was giving up. Not just Jack, but this feeling, this connection, this life. I turned to leave, but someone called out, Lily? Maya was standing in the doorway, wearing a coat 3 sizes too big. Hi, Maya. Jack said you weren't coming back. He said you had important rich people stuff, but I knew you'd come back. I made you something. She ran inside and came back with a folded piece of paper. I drew your hands. See? I got the fingers right this time. I opened it and started crying. Because she'd drawn me and Jack, holding hands, surrounded by stars. Why are you sad? Maya asked. It's a happy picture. It's the happiest picture I've ever seen. Then you should come inside. Jack's being sad too. Maybe if you're both sad in the same room, you'll turn happy. Kid logic. The best kind. I followed her in. Jack froze when he saw me. Then his face closed off, like shutters over a window. Lily's here, Maya announced to the room, and she liked my drawing. The other kids came running over, all talking at once, showing me ornaments and asking where I'd been and telling me about the Christmas party next week. And Jack just stood there watching, his face unreadable. Finally, the kids went back to decorating and I walked over to him. Hi, I said. Hi. I'm sorry. For what? Making the smart choice? Choosing safety over stupidity? For being scared, for running, for not trusting you. He looked away. Doesn't matter now. You're getting married in 3 days. I don't want to. But you're going to anyway. I thought I was protecting you. Victoria said she'd destroy you if I didn't marry Blake. She has information about you, about your dad, about everything. And I couldn't let her hurt you. He finally looked at me. So you hurt yourself instead? Yes. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I know. You really think I need protecting? Like I'm some helpless kid? No, I've been taking care of myself since I was 10 years old, Lily. I've lost jobs, lost housing, almost lost my dad, and I'm still here, still standing. You know why? I shook my head. Because I don't run from hard things. I run toward them, and I thought you were starting to learn that too. But I guess I was wrong. The words hit like a punch. You're right. I was running, but I'm here now. Why? To say goodbye? To make yourself feel better before you marry some guy you don't even like? No. I'm here because Maya drew me a picture and I remembered something you said about feeling real. And I don't want to spend my life feeling fake. I don't want to be like my mom, sad in a big house. I don't want to be my dad pretending to be something I'm not. I want to be me. Even if that's scary. Even if that's hard. He was quiet for a long time. What about Victoria? What about Blake? What about all of it? I don't know. But I'm done letting fear make my choices. If you're gonna run, he said quietly, you need to run all the way. No safety nets, no backup plans, just you and me figuring it out together. Can you do that? I thought about the penthouse, the money, the security, everything I'd ever known. Then I thought about 72 windows and feeling nothing. Yes, I said, I can do that. He kissed me, and it felt like coming home. But kissing doesn't solve problems, it just pauses them. The next morning, I woke up in my big empty bed and realized I had no idea what to do. How do you fight someone with all the power? How do you escape when the cage is made of expectations and obligations and 1,000 invisible threads? I got dressed and went to my father's old office. I hadn't been in there since he died. Victoria had locked it up, said it was too painful to deal with. But I had a key, and I had questions. I spent 6 hours going through files, bank statements, legal documents, contracts, and slowly, piece by piece, I started to see the truth. Victoria had been lying. Not about everything. Dad had overspent, that was true. But about how bad it really was. The company wasn't broke, it was bruised, and it could heal without Blake's money. But healing would mean cutting costs, selling properties, living smaller, and Victoria didn't want to live smaller. She wanted Blake's $50 million so she could keep living large. The merger wasn't about saving the family. It was about saving her lifestyle. I kept digging, found more documents, emails, transfers, and then I found something that made my blood run cold. Victoria had been siphoning money from the company for years. Small amounts at first, then bigger. Hiding it in accounts under different names. Building herself a nest egg while claiming we were drowning in debt. She was stealing from my father's company. From me. And she was trying to force me into a marriage to cover it up. I grabbed everything. Every document. Every email. Every piece of proof. And I called a lawyer. Not one of Victoria's lawyers. One of my father's old friends. Someone I could trust. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop far from the penthouse. This is fraud, he said, flipping through the documents. Serious fraud. She could go to jail. Good, I said. But if we move forward with this, it's going to be messy, public. The press will have a field day. Your family name will be dragged through everything. The family name is already dirt. At least this way it'll be honest dirt. He smiled. Your father would be proud. My father would be horrified, but he should have been more careful who he married. We made a plan. He'd file the paperwork the day after the wedding was supposed to happen. We'd give Victoria one last chance to think she'd won. Then we'd drop the hammer. But first, I had to cancel a wedding. I called Blake that night. He answered on the first ring. "Blake, we need to talk. If this is about the honeymoon, I already told you. I'm not marrying you." Silence. "What?" "I'm not marrying you. I'm sorry. I know this is sudden, but I can't do it. I don't love you. I don't even like you that much. And you don't love me either. So let's just stop pretending." More silence. Then, "Does Victoria know about this?" "Not yet. You're hearing it first." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Thank God." "What?" "Lily, I was dreading this wedding. You're beautiful, don't get me wrong, but you're also kind of mean and boring, and I've been trying to figure out how to get out of it without looking like the bad guy. So honestly, you calling this off is the best news I've had all month." I didn't know whether to be offended or relieved. I chose relieved. "So we're good?" "We're great. I'll handle my family. You handle yours. And let's never speak again." "Deal." He hung up. One problem down. One very big problem to go. Victoria was not as understanding. I told her the next morning at breakfast. Just dropped it like a bomb on the table between the croissants and the coffee. "I'm not marrying Blake." She didn't even look up from her phone. "Yes, you are. The wedding is tomorrow." "No, I'm not. I called it off. Blake agreed. It's done." Now she looked up. "You did what?" "I'm not marrying him. And before you threaten to destroy Jack or ruin my life or whatever, you should know I have copies of every financial document in Dad's office, including the ones showing you've been stealing from the company for 3 years. Her face went white, then red, then something beyond color. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "I have bank statements, email chains, transfer records. Want me to keep going?" She stood up so fast her chair fell over. "You ungrateful little—" "Careful," I said. "I'm recording this conversation, and my lawyer has all the documents, so maybe choose your next words wisely." For the first time since I'd known her, Victoria looked scared. "What do you want?" she asked quietly. "I want you gone. Out of this house, out of the company, out of my life. You have 24 hours to pack your things and leave. If you do that, I won't press charges. You can take whatever money is actually yours and disappear. And if I don't? Then I call the police, the press, and everyone else who'd love to hear about how my stepmother tried to sell me off to cover up her embezzlement." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "You think you're so strong now. You think one boy with pretty words changed you. But you're still the same scared little girl, Lily. And when that boy realizes you're broke and ordinary and not special at all, he'll leave. And you'll be alone in this big house with nothing but your pride to keep you warm." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'll be free." She left the next morning, took her clothes, her jewelry, and whatever dignity she had left. I watched her go from one of those 72 windows and felt absolutely nothing. No, that's a lie. I felt relief. The next few days were chaos. Canceling the wedding, dealing with the press, restructuring the company, selling properties to cover the real debts. It was exhausting and overwhelming, and I had no idea what I was doing half the time. But I wasn't alone. Jack showed up every morning with coffee, sat with me while I made calls and signed papers and tried to figure out how to run a company I'd never paid attention to. He didn't try to fix things or take over, just existed next to me. Steady. Real. "You're really good at this," he said one night. We were sitting in the office, surrounded by papers, both exhausted. At what? Making a mess? At cleaning one up, at taking responsibility, at being brave. I don't feel brave. I feel terrified. That's what brave is, being terrified and doing it anyway. I leaned my head on his shoulder. What if Victoria was right? What if you realize I'm just ordinary now and you leave? Lily, you were never ordinary. Rich or poor, in a penthouse or a cardboard box, you're still you. And that's who I fell in love with. Not your money, not your name. You. Even when I'm mean and scared and mess everything up? Especially then. Christmas Eve came faster than I expected. The company was stable. Victoria was gone. Blake was probably on a yacht somewhere, relieved. And I was free. I showed up at the community center with my car full of presents. Real ones, books, art supplies, winter coats, toys. Things the kids needed. Things they wanted. I'd sold some jewelry, cut my own budget down to almost nothing, used company funds that were actually mine to use. And it felt amazing. Jack met me at the door. You came. I came, and I brought Christmas. We spent the evening giving out presents and watching kids lose their minds with happiness. Maya got a full set of art supplies and actually cried. Other kids got coats that fit, books they'd been wanting, toys they'd never thought they'd own. And I felt richer than I'd ever felt in my life. At midnight, Jack and I stood on that same rooftop where he'd first kissed me. The city was covered in snow now, everything soft and quiet and new. So what now? He asked. Now I figure out who I am without all the stuff. Without the name. Without any of it. And who's that? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Someone who helps, I said finally. Someone who matters. Someone who feels real. Sounds like a good person to be. I'm gonna need help. I don't know how to be normal. I don't know how to struggle. I'm gonna mess up a lot. He pulled me close. Good thing you know someone who's really good at messing up and figuring it out anyway. We kissed as the clock tower in the distance chimed midnight. Christmas morning. A new beginning. And somewhere below us, in the warm light of the community center, I could hear kids laughing and music playing and life happening. Real life. The kind you can't buy. The kind you have to build. I wish I could tell you everything was perfect after that. But life isn't a fairy tale. It's messier than that. And harder. The next few months were brutal. I moved out of the penthouse into a small apartment near Jack's building. Got a job at a nonprofit that worked with at-risk kids. Learned what it meant to be too tired to think and too broke to quit. Learned to cook, do laundry, budget. All the things I'd never had to know before. I fought with Jack sometimes, cried in bathrooms, missed my old life with an ache that felt like hunger. There were nights I wondered if Victoria was right, if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. But then I'd go to the community center and see Maya drawing, or I'd come home to Jack reading on our secondhand couch, or I'd help a kid figure out their homework and watch their face light up when they understood. And I'd remember, I wasn't who I used to be, and I never wanted to be her again. The company stabilized under new management. I stayed on the board, but let people who actually knew what they were doing run things. We downsized, cut costs, became smaller but healthier. And slowly, we started growing again. The right way this time. I used my salary to help fund the community center. Jack and I started talking about opening more locations, helping more kids, building something real. Victoria disappeared. Last I heard she was living in Europe somewhere, probably scheming her next con. I didn't care. She was someone else's problem now. Blake sent me a wedding gift 6 months later, a note that said, "Thanks for dodging that bullet," and a bottle of expensive champagne. I laughed for about 10 minutes. Then Jack and I drank it while eating pizza on our fire escape. Maya started high school. She was thriving, getting straight A's, talking about art school, becoming the person she was always meant to be. And me? I was becoming someone too. Someone I actually liked. Someone who could look in the mirror without flinching. Someone who chose love over safety every single day. It's been 5 years now since that Christmas. Jack and I got married last spring in the community center where we met. Maya was the flower girl. My dress cost $80 from a secondhand shop. We served cupcakes instead of cake. My father's old business partner walked me down the aisle because he was the closest thing I had to family, and it was perfect. We never had a honeymoon because we couldn't afford one. But we spent a weekend at a cheap hotel by the beach, and it was better than any trip to Paris or Rome could have been. The community center grew. We opened 2 more locations, got grants, donations, recognition, started programs for job training, college prep, mental health support. Every kid who walked through those doors was proof that I'd made the right choice. I still have hard days when I see old friends from my previous life and feel small, days when the bills are tight and I wonder if I'm doing enough, days when I miss my father so much it hurts to breathe. But then I come home to Jack, to our tiny apartment that smells like coffee and paint and life, to the walls covered in kids' drawings, to the future we're building together, one day at a time. Last week, Maya graduated high school. Full scholarship to art school. She's going to study illustration. Her dream since she was 7 years old. At her graduation party, she gave me a gift. A drawing, me and Jack, holding hands, surrounded by stars. The same one she'd drawn 5 years ago when she was just a kid with a dream and a worn-out coat. But this one was different, better, more detailed, because Maya had grown, had learned, had become the artist she was always meant to be. I told you it was a happy picture, she said, hugging me tight. She was right. It was the happiest picture I'd ever seen, because it wasn't just a picture of what I had. It was a picture of what I'd become, what we'd all become. A family built not on blood or money, but on choice, on showing up, on love. I think about that first Christmas a lot. About the girl I used to be, standing at those 72 windows, feeling nothing. About Victoria's threats and Blake's yacht stories and my father's debts. About the moment I chose to walk away from all of it. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. If I miss the money, the comfort, the safety. And honestly, sometimes I do. Sometimes I see someone step out of a limo or wear a dress I could never afford now, and I feel a pang. Not of jealousy, exactly. More like nostalgia for a life I didn't even enjoy. But then I remember, that life cost me everything. My honesty, my connection, my soul. I was drowning in silk sheets and champagne, and I didn't even know it. Now I'm swimming. Really swimming. And sure, the water's cold and the current's strong and I'm tired more often than not. But I'm alive. Really, truly alive. And that's worth more than all the penthouses in the world. This morning, Jack and I sat on our fire escape drinking coffee and watching the city wake up. It's our routine now. Every morning before the chaos starts, we just sit together and breathe. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "That girl who refused to share an umbrella 5 years ago." He smiled. "She was kind of awful." She really was. "Good thing she's dead." I laughed. "Is she?" "Yeah, you killed her, the day you chose to live instead of exist." I leaned against him, feeling the warmth of his shoulder, the steady rhythm of his breathing. Below us, the street was coming alive. The bakery opening, the bus arriving, people heading to work, to school, to wherever their lives were taking them. And I was one of them now. Not above it all, looking down from 72 windows, but part of it, connected, real. "I love you," I said. "I know. You tell me every morning." Is it getting old? Never. Tonight, we're having dinner with Maya and some of the other kids from the center. 20 people crammed into our tiny apartment, eating pasta I learned to make from a YouTube video, laughing too loud, being too alive. It won't be fancy. The plates won't match. Someone will probably spill something on the carpet that'll never come out. And it'll be perfect. Because this is what I learned that Christmas 5 years ago. Love isn't something you find in safety or money or perfect plans. It's not in penthouses or diamonds or arranged marriages. It's in the mess. The the struggle, the choice to show up every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. It's in the way Jack still brings me coffee every morning, even though I'm terrible before caffeine. In the way Maya saves her best drawings to show me first. In the way these kids, our kids now, trust us enough to ask for help. It's in the smallness of it all, the beautiful, ordinary, extraordinary smallness. Victoria was wrong about one thing. I'm not alone in this big house with nothing but pride. I'm in a small apartment with everything that matters. And the difference between those two things? That's the difference between existing and living. I went back to the old penthouse once about a year ago. It had been sold to some tech guy who made billions off an app I don't understand. I talked my way past security, told them I used to live there, just wanted to see it one more time. They let me up. The penthouse looked different. New furniture, new art, new life. But those 72 windows were still there, still reflecting the city in pieces. I stood where I used to stand, looking out at the view that used to be mine, and I felt nothing. No longing, no regret, no desire to go back. Just gratitude that I'd found the courage to leave. I took one last look, then walked to the elevator. As the doors closed, I saw my reflection in the polished metal. And for the first time in my life, I recognized the person looking back. She looked tired. Her clothes weren't expensive. Her hair wasn't perfect. But she looked happy. Really, truly happy. So here's what I want you to know, whoever you are listening to this story. If you're in a cage, whether it's made of money or expectations or fear or anything else, you can leave. It won't be easy. It might be the hardest thing you ever do. You might lose people, lose comfort, lose the version of yourself you thought you had to be. But you'll gain something bigger. You'll gain yourself, the real you, the one buried under all the should-bes and have-tos and supposed-tos, the one who knows what makes you laugh, what makes you cry, what makes you feel alive. That person is worth fighting for. I know because I almost lost her. I almost married a man I didn't love, lived a life I didn't want, became a person I would have hated, all because I was too scared to choose something different. But one rainy night, a boy with a taped-up book and two honest eyes showed me another way. And one Christmas, I was brave enough to take it. That's the gift he gave me. Not jewelry or flowers or pretty words, but the courage to save myself. And now I'm passing that gift to you. Jack just called from the other room. Apparently, someone already spilled something, on the ceiling this time, don't ask me how, and we need to figure it out before everyone arrives. That's my cue. But before I go, I want to tell you one more thing. 5 years ago, I would have said love is a fairy tale. A nice idea that doesn't work in the real world. That money and security and safety are what matter. That feelings are just feelings, and they fade, and you need something solid to stand on. I was wrong. Love is the solid thing. Everything else is just decoration. And the best part? You don't find it in a penthouse or a palace or some perfect moment where everything aligns. You find it in the mess, in the struggle, in the choice to keep choosing, even when it's hard. You find it in Tuesday morning coffee on a fire escape, in teaching a kid to draw hands, in building something that matters with someone who sees you, really sees you, and loves you anyway. That's the real Christmas miracle. Not that some poor boy saved a rich girl, but that two people chose each other, every single day, and built something real. So if you're standing at your own 72 windows, feeling nothing, wondering if there's more to life than what you have, there is. I promise you, there is. You just have to be brave enough to walk away from the view and find it. Maya just texted. She's bringing her new boyfriend tonight. Jack's already planning the intimidating father figure speech, even though he's only 28 and definitely not her actual father. I'm making extra pasta. Someone's knocking on the door. The apartment's about to fill with noise and laughter and life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Not for a penthouse, not for $1 billion, not for safety or comfort or all the windows in the world, because this messy, beautiful, imperfect life is mine. I chose it. I built it. I earned it. And that makes it worth more than anything money could ever buy. So thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for staying with me through the hard parts and the scary parts and the parts where I wasn't sure how it would end. The truth is, it hasn't ended. It's still being written. Every morning when I wake up next to Jack, every time a kid at the center has a breakthrough, every small moment of joy I used to be too numb to notice. That's the beautiful thing about choosing life over existence. The story doesn't stop, it just keeps getting better. And if you take anything from my story, take this. You are not your past. You are not your circumstances. You are not the cage you're in or the fear you carry or the person everyone expects you to be. You are the choice you make right now, today, this moment. So choose love. Choose courage. Choose the life that makes you feel something, even if it scares you. Choose to be free. Because 5 years ago, I was a girl in a golden cage, waiting to die. Today, I'm a woman on a fire escape, learning to fly. And if I can do it, if someone as lost and scared and broken as I was can do it, then so can you. I believe in you. Even though I don't know you. Even though I'll never meet you. I believe you have the strength to save yourself. Just like someone once believed in me. Now go. Your life is waiting, and it's going to be beautiful. That fire escape where Lily drinks coffee every morning? She told me something about it once. She said every time she sits there, she thinks about those 72 windows in the penthouse. How they showed her the whole city, but made her feel nothing. Now she has one view, a narrow slice between buildings, looking at a street that smells like garbage on hot days, and it makes her feel everything. Funny how that works. Look, I know what you might be thinking. This is just a story, right? Nice fairy tale. But your life isn't like that. Your cage is different. Your fear is bigger. Your choice is harder. Maybe. But here's what I know. 5 years ago, Lily thought the same thing. She thought her situation was impossible, that there was no way out, that choosing love over safety was a luxury she couldn't afford. She was wrong. And maybe, just maybe, you are too. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Not tomorrow. Not when everything's perfect. Right now. Think about one thing you're doing out of fear instead of love. One cage you're sitting in because it feels safer than being free. One choice you're avoiding because the unknown scares you more than the known. Got it? Now ask yourself, what would the person I want to be do right now? Not the person you are, the person you want to be, the version of yourself that's brave and free and alive. What would they choose? That's your answer. And yeah, it's probably going to be hard. Probably going to hurt. Probably going to cost you something. Comfort, security, the approval of people who don't really see you anyway. But you know what it'll give you? Yourself. The real, whole, beautiful you. And that's worth everything. I'm going to let you go now. But before I do, I want you to know something. This isn't just Lily's story. It's yours too. We all have our penthouses and our fire escapes, our Victorias and our Jacks, our moments where we have to choose between existing and living. The only difference is whether we're brave enough to make the choice. Lily was, 5 years ago this Christmas, and she's never looked back. So the question isn't whether you can do it, it's whether you will. Your story is waiting to be written. Your life is waiting to be lived. What are you going to choose? I'll be back next week with another story, another person who found the courage to save themselves, another reminder that you're not alone in this. But until then, sit with that question. Really sit with it. What are you going to choose? Because 5 years from now, when you're sitting on your own fire escape, whatever that looks like for you, I want you to look back and be grateful. Not that it was easy, but that you were brave enough to do it anyway. See you next time. And remember, you're stronger than you think, braver than you know, and worthy of a life that makes you feel everything. Now, go choose it. Dear friends, what you just saw is only one part of the bigger picture. In the next video, I'll reveal the twist no one saw coming, so make sure you're here when it drops. I would love to know what you would have done in this situation. Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading every single comment. Thank you so much for watching. I love you so much, and don't forget to give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, and share with someone who needs to hear it.